Summer is always when the box office is at its hottest, and July 2023 had the biggest cinematic explosion of the century so far. Barbenheimer, the double feature marketing masterpiece.
Money, please! Money, please.
As for the movies themselves, all I gotta say is Barbie was not for me. I can appreciate the talent and work that went into this movie behind the massive hype storm that surrounded it, though, even if all three acts are three completely different movies, loosely strung together by Barbie's journey of self-actualization.
Why you boring me? I'm right.
Oppenheimer, on the other hand, whoo. While I can sympathize with some of the criticisms that the overall pacing is a little bit slow at points, I was invested for the whole goddamn thing. The opening act establishes Oppenheimer and his most important relationships, the second act is a climactic race against the Nazis to the atomic bomb, and the final act is a witch hunt led by a nefarious government shadow committee against Oppenheimer with the intention of destroying his reputation while simultaneously setting a precedent that would change the course of American scientific discovery forever. And I mean, while there's no doubt that Oppenheimer got a big bump from the most well-executed marketing strategy of all time, as far as I'm concerned, it earned every dime that it got from me, especially on IMAX. Are you kidding me with that 80-foot bomb in the air? Mostly, though, it's just good to see Nolan return to better form. This is up there with Dunkirk for his best films. Cillian Murphy cemented his place amongst the best actors in Hollywood in it, and this thing even fucking revived Josh Hartnett's career. As far as 2023 movies go, with the exception of the big radioactive lizard himself, Oppenheimer vaporized the competition. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, on the other hand, was an abject failure. Too much time, too many reshoots, not enough vision, and on top of it all, a lead actor who doesn't give a fuck about the legacy characters he's being coerced into reprising.
Are you looking forward to watching a Han Solo movie as a fan?
Not really.
Truth be told, I was actually kind of surprised by the aspects of this movie that didn't annoy me as much as I thought they would. Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Wombat character isn't anything to write home about, but she's nowhere near as bad as the discount shit on his upper lip for a mustache short round that we get in this thing. While Dial of Destiny treads the same familiar waters of the Indiana Jones franchise, it does it somehow less successfully than its pathetic predecessor, the Crystal Skull.
Bullshit.
Time travel is an interesting angle for an indie movie, but it's mostly shoehorned into the end of Dial of Destiny. In a batshit crazy final act that involves flying a plane into ancient history only to have the situation immediately resolved, and the movie ends with Indy waking up back in his apartment with Marion waiting for him.
Why?
Did they fly the plane back to the present? Did Wombat go and get Marion? Or did they change the past so that she and Indy never broke up? Does that mean Mutt's still alive? We can only hope not. Is this what they thought audiences wanted? At a grand total of $384 million at the box office, the answer seems to be no.
It's called capitalism.
You know, Asteroid City wasn't financially successful either, but it was actually a film. Symmetrical framing, quirky male protagonist, unique setting, there's no mistaking Wes Anderson's style. Asteroid City takes place within a play, and although the whole play within a movie thing has been done a few times in this decade alone, and arguably more successfully, it still creates a unique narrative for a Wes Anderson movie. And I won't ever lie to you, this is a pandemic movie through and through, from concept to production. I mean, the basic plot is after an encounter with an extraterrestrial, the characters become quarantined in Asteroid City, where they're forced to deal with a newly altered worldview while also managing the adversities of everyday life, such as death, strained family relationships, and romantic infatuation. I really didn't mind this artsy reflection on quarantine and the pandemic, especially because Asteroid City is a story about people, not politics. So again, if you like Anderson's style, you'll find yourself in a comfortably familiar place watching this one. And if you don't, you'll find yourself having all the same issues that you always have with his work.
I don't know why nobody else liked it.
Not a bad choice, though, if it's available to you for free on streaming and you just need something easy for date night. The same actually goes for No Hard Feelings, Jennifer Lawrence's raunchy comedy about trying to fuck a teenager for a car. It's a lot better than it sounds. There's even a few scenes I found to be genuinely hilarious. You just can't beat a full frontal suplex from a former it girl. Don't get me wrong, this isn't a great comedy or anything. We're not talking about Blazing Saddles. This is more like Never Been Kissed mixed with American Pie and sort of the same Save the House plot as Happy Gilmore thrown in there.
That's brilliant. It's in the movie done.
Despite all that, this is still my choice for comedy movie of the year, considering the trash that is this movie's competition. It is a low bar that No Hard Feelings easily steps over.
No one's making real comedies. Real comedies.
I don't know, man. J-Law is a struggling 32-year-old who's working at a dead-end job and generally making poor life decisions. What can I say? I found it to be relatable. Everything except for the Crystalia-style relationship she's attempting in the movie, that is.
People think Hollywood is evil? Bro, whatever you think that is, that's what I am.
This movie feels like it's 15 years too late, and I think that's what kind of works for it. It's sort of nostalgic feeling. 5 years ago, what would have gotten No Hard Feelings lost in a sea of slightly edgy romantic comedies and now allows it to stand out in the comedy apocalypse hellscape that was 2023.
Do you have a sense of humor?
Transformers Rise of the Beast, though, has got to be about as generic as it gets these days. A story based on a commercial product with a diverse and inclusive principal cast, chock full of incoherently busy CGI battle scenes that give you no sense of what's actually happening during the action. And yet, this movie was a big box office success.
Winning.
It's pretty much the same thing as all the other live-action Transformers movies that have come before it, only the human characters in Rise of the Beasts are even more forgettable than usual, and you're forced to listen to Pete Davidson deliver quippy one-liners the whole time.
Wow, that was corny when I said it out loud.
To make things worse, this movie has the added bonus of shortchanging all of our favorites from the Beast Wars show. Not only do they just straight-up ignore iconic characters like Dinobot, Rat Trap, Waspinator, but the ones that are included, like Rhinox and Cheetor, are non-factors. We're lucky to get as much Airazor as we did, and she didn't even transform.
Disappointing.
But hey, if you love G.I. Joe and Mega Man references, then this fraudulent Beast Wars movie is for you. Now, there's no real sense in nitpicking the logic behind a fucking Transformers movie, but since I'm not the smartest guy, could someone please explain to me why the Maximals are able to transform into Earth animals before they ever go to Earth?
What are the rules? You know what I mean?
The movie starts off with the Maximals on their alien home planet. Does that mean that the alien planet just happened to have gorillas, hawks, and cheetahs too? And rhinos? That's fucking crazy, man. Almost as crazy as them trying to establish dramatic tension in the second act by killing off Bumblebee. Boy, do you think he'll come back?
I guess.
It just goes to show, though, general audiences aren't looking for something clever, they like dumb fun. So I can't recommend this movie unless you're, like, severely retarded. Finally, our 2023 medley comes to an end in May with a movie that kind of felt like a medley itself. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, the first thing I want to say is I felt like it was kind of cheap for this movie to end on a surprise cliffhanger.
Get the fuck out of here!
Because of the two-part nature of the story, though, I'll reserve my full judgment until I see the second half, but on its own, I didn't care much for this movie.
Okay.
Mostly Across the Spider-Verse just feels like a rehash of everything that made Into the Spider-Verse special, just multiplied by 10 for the sequel. And the end result is a busy story that has a lot happening on screen at pretty much all times, and some would argue too much.
Why you boring me? I'm right.
There are at least some unique ideas introduced into this sequel, though, that help differentiate it from the first Spider-Verse movie. The Spider Citadel, while not an original concept in itself, is certainly a first for this series, and for better or worse, it allowed the creators to go all in on fitting every possible Spider variant that they could into this thing. Plus, Spot's a great villain that's not overexposed in the Spider-Man's rogues gallery, but still seems to have a power level close to some of Spidey's worst enemies, and Hobby Brown the Spider-Punk is easily the only alternative Spider-Man introduced into this movie that's on par with the first one's cast of lovable Spider-Folk. So while it's cool to see a variety of Spider-Man villains, body-positive Spider-People, and various alternative Manhattans, all done in different styles, they cram so much into this movie that at a certain point you have to ask yourself, when is it enough?
It's so big.
They even felt the need to double the number of protagonists in this movie by elevating Gwen Stacy pretty much to Miles' level in regards to her significance to the story and the amount of screen time that's dedicated to her. Or is it them? Overall, Across the Spider-Verse is a sequel that fails to live up to the excellence of the first one, but still holds the potential to be a solid middle chapter in a series that could ultimately redefine Spider-Man movies as we know them, provided Beyond the Spider-Verse ends up being the epic conclusion that people are expecting.
Well, we're waiting.
That does it for the movies of 2023 that got left behind. If you listened for this long, I truly thank you. If you like what you heard, subscribe. But for now, that's enough.